Good morning, Mama. This is Dream Life Unfolded, where we are celebrating you. We are here with the awesome Lisa Taylor, and we are going to motivate, inspire you, and cheer you on. So, without any further ado, Lisa, say hello and tell our audience who you are and what it is you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Yaminah. I love being here. I love presencing women particularly, and particularly women who are at a point in their lives where they feel like, there's more. There's something I feel inside that's calling me to more, that I know I haven't quite fulfilled what it is I came here to do, or who I've been called to be. And that's the place where I love to work with people. So I'm a spiritual healer, practitioner, speaker, author, and I am all about choice. That one choice can change your life. And particularly people who are on that precipice of change, or something has shifted in their life where they're seeing a new landscape and maybe not quite sure what step to take. It always, and I mean always, with all the clients I've worked with, it always comes back to, do I know who I am? Do I know who I truly am? Do I know who I've been called to be? Do I have clarity around my identity? And when we have clarity and we really know the core of our being and who God has made us to be, who God has called us to be, and if you don't talk in terms of God, plug in universe or source or creator or whatever works for you, and just knowing who you are allows you to be who you are. So I have a phrase, if you can see who you are, you can be who you are. So gaining that clarity of self, true self, having a consistent practice, I'm all about daily practice, daily spiritual practice, having a consistent practice, consistent habits that keep you aligned with your true self. And that in the practice of that, you're building that confidence of being able to always come back to who you know yourself to be, regardless of what's going on the outside. There's all sorts of evidence, external evidence, that would argue against your true nature. Tons. The world is screaming at us all the time. You're less than, you're not worthy, like all the arguments. You know what they are. I don't even have to tell you, because you feel it on the inside. But when you have a daily practice, when you have something that's constantly aligning you with your true self, you build a confidence to then be able to go out and contribute to the world and be who you're meant to be. Each and every one of you watching this is like that, your individual puzzle piece in the world, and you have a space to fill. Like, you've been given that little space to fill. And if you're not filling it completely, you have an opportunity. I was going to say something else, but I'll do it from the positive side. It's like, stop it. The moonstruck, slap. It's like, knock it off. So like, stop it. Stop holding back. Stop playing small. Like, we are called, all of us are called to be the biggest version of us that we can be. So that's what I'm about. I'm all about that. I have tons of, I have spent my whole life, literally my whole life, following the calling on my heart and listening to the intuition that is given to me. There's, listening to angels, listening to those spiritual intuitions, that God's thoughts passing to man, those spiritual intuitions that really are the place where we find the answers, and we're led and guided to fulfilling that place on the planet that we are meant to fill.
Lisa, you have come out the gate just rocking. You said everything. So audience, mothers, moms, please grab a pen and a piece of paper, because you need to take some notes, because Lisa is not playing here. And everything she has said is totally true. And I relate in my life. I know that we each are gifted with talents and skills and an assignment and a calling on our life and in our hearts. And as Lisa said, the people that love us, our parents, our teachers, society, would have us believe that we shouldn't listen to who we are, because when we start sharing our dream, then when someone isn't understanding what we're talking about, they're like, oh, all right, that's just a dream. You don't know what you're talking about, but this is what you need to do. But other people cannot tell you what you need to do. And as Lisa said, you are divinely guided in all the things. Whether you have been aware of it up to this point or not, you're always guided, you're always supported. And that dream, that calling that you came here with, it tugs at your heart. It lets you know, like when you're wondering and feeling a thing, or trying to figure out why you keep having a thought and things keep showing up in your life, it's because you have a calling. You've been anointed with something. So it's your responsibility to recognize the call, to answer the call, to step into it, and your life changes in ways unimaginable. And I know that often as women, as moms, as wives, as partners, we tend to hide the better part of who we are. We tuck that dream way down inside. That's why we're talking about Dream Life Unfolded here, because we're going to go find that dream. We're going to look at that call. We're going to figure out, and as Lisa said, there are many ways to set yourself up each day with the practice, so that you can remember who you truly are, truly at your core. So when you know who you are, and which helps you know how powerful you are, how abundant, how free you are. And if your life isn't quite reflecting that, and you're feeling a little bit stuck right now, and as Lisa said, not really sure like what step to take and how to get there, Lisa's here to bring it for you. So
We
grab
got
your
you.
pen,
We
grab
got
your
you.
paper. We got you.
We got
called you. We called you. That is why you're here.
Yeah,
Not only did God call you, we were sent here to call you so that you can get back to knowing who you are.
I absolutely love that you're doing this series, because this is what's needed for people to feel like, really like, pause for a moment and check in with your heart and ask yourself, am I meant for something?
Yes.
Am I worth following that little flame inside of me that's never gone out, that might have tried to be snuffed out by the world or people or situations, whatever, but it's still there. You're on the planet, you're alive, you're watching this, you still got a flame inside. I tell you right now, it's there. And all we need to do is stoke it and care for it and blow on it a little bit, and it will be a burning inferno if you let it be. And that's the thing. It's like, I am here, I am loved, God is here, I am safe, all is well. And when we start there, like, really just put your hands on your heart and take a breath and take a pause and check in with yourself and your heart. Get out of your head, because we spend so much time in our head racing around the to-do list, the negative self-talk, all of that, like all the beliefs we've been carrying with us in this really heavy backpack, these bags for so long. We got the backpack on the back with the rocks. We got a bag in each hand. We're walking around. It's like, you know what? God is the divine porter. Here, God, take my bag. Here, God, take this bag. Take the backpack off and put it by the side of the road. Like, leave your baggage on the side of the road and walk freely in the freedom of that spirit of saying, God's got my back. God's got me. I can trust that. I don't need to fear what's going to happen to me. We're so used to controlling every element of our experience, when the only thing we need to do is tune in and align our sense of ourself with God's sense of us. Who does God see you as? Who has God created you to be? What does God see of you? There's one of the exercises I do with the people I work with. One of the first exercises, and they love this. I say that facetiously. List 100 things that you love about yourself. And they go, what, 100? Like, they're incredulous. Like, I don't have 100 things I love about myself. It's like, well, sit down and start writing. And people get to like 5 or 10 and they go, they get to 15 or 20. They go, okay, I got nothing. Okay, list 50 things you don't like about yourself. And they go, oh, no problem. And they whip off that list. What's wrong with that picture? Hello? What's wrong with that picture? We are so ingrained in putting ourselves down, seeing negative things about ourselves, that we are happy to write down 50 things we don't like about ourselves, and we're stuck to get to 15 things that we love about ourselves. Well, here's a little trick. You can take those 50 things that you don't like and look at what's the opposite. So say, oh, I don't like that I'm shy, or I don't like that I criticize people. Okay, what's the opposite of criticizing people? Supporting people, loving people. So take the opposite of the negative thing you don't like and put it on your positive list and live into the positive list. Start being the person you so desire to be and secretly think you are on the inside, but you're afraid to admit. Because a lot of people, they stop on that list because it's like, I don't want to boast. I don't want to be egotistical. I don't want to be conceited. Well, if it's about you and your ego, the little I, then yeah, it's going to feel conceited. But if it's about glorifying the divine creator and acknowledging that, oh, I've been created to be fully me, and I'm dishonoring the creator if I show up smaller than, because I'm embarrassed. Well, who are you? Get that false ego out of the way. Like, remove it from the situation, because the false ego is the one that gets hurt when other people say things. It's the false ego that feels like I'm either not enough or I'm too much. It's two sides of the same coin. I'm not worthy or I'm too good for this. And that false ego will come rushing in the side door and talk to you in terms of I this and I that, puts it in the first person, makes you think it's your thinking when it's actually not. It's the false ego trying to show up as you. And you can rip the mask off it and go, yeah, I see you. I see you. You're not me. I am designed by God. And who I am is God derived, God supported, God ordained. I am here to express the divine. So I am willing to stand on top of the pillar, on top of the roof, in the middle of the street and say, I am awesome. Why? Because I'm the reflection of God. This is what God created. This is awesome. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with me showing up to say, this is God expressed. It's not me personally. It's my individual expression, which is awesome, but it's God's idea. It's not my idea. I get to just be God's idea. There's a freedom in that. There's a release in that. There's a bye-bye false ego in that. There's, the pressure is off. You know, Yaminah, you talked about kind of listening to that voice. And I want to tell you a story, actually, about what it looks like to be in service to who we are, what it looks like to be in service to the highest sense of ourselves. This is like way back when I was, just to give you a little backstory, at 3 years old, was going to Sunday school. I always loved God. Was going to Sunday school, came home, was like in the entryway of our home, this little blue stone, really cool blue stone entryway of our home, contemporary home, glass door. And I'm standing in the entryway, and I just learned in Sunday school that God is everywhere. God is all and God is everywhere. And I'm 3 years old. And I'm looking up at the doorknob. That's why I know how old I am, because I'm little. I'm short enough to look up at the doorknob. And I can see this scene in my mind so clearly. I look up at the doorknob, which is this brass metal doorknob, of the front door, and I look over at the closet doorknob, which is a wooden, I don't know, what was my mom thinking? Brass and in the same, anyway, there's a wood doorknob there, brass. I said, Mommy, if God is everywhere, is God in that doorknob? And I honestly don't remember what my mom said. I'm sure she tried to come up with some answer that would be appealing to a 3-year-old, but that's how much I wanted to know God from a very little itty bitty age. And I had all sorts of interesting experiences growing up and couldn't wait to sort of study the Bible and learn more. And I just wanted to know God, because if I knew God, then I knew me. Like, who is God? And what is the all power? What is the creator? Who is the creator? Who is that? So I grew up sort of listening to that still small voice that we hear about in the Bible and recognizing that God was always talking to me. And if I was listening and I was following that little voice, things always worked out a lot better, like a lot better. So there was a time when I was in college and I was studying for finals, and it was 2 a.m. Like I could hear the vacuum cleaner off in the distance of the guy cleaning the building. It's like ready to shut the building. So I think I got to go get some sleep. I'm studying for finals. I got big finals the next day. So I was done studying and I was ready to go. So I walked out of the building and I get out into the cold. This is in Illinois. It's quite cold. It's winter. I think it was winter quarter or something. Get out into the cold and I hear a voice. Go to the infirmary. This place that was called Cox Cottage. Go to Cox. I was like, I'm not sick. I'm just tired. I need to go to my dorm, north end of the campus. Go to Cox Cottage. No, I'm not going to Cox Cottage. They lock the door at 11. I know that. I've been on campus for years. There's a sign on the door that says door locked at 11, ring buzzer. I'm not going. So I recognize it as this intuition, this angel thought. And I thought, okay, because years before I'd made a deal and just said, I will always be obedient to the angel. I will always be obedient to the intuition, that divine inspiration that comes to me that says, go do, because our obedience is honoring God. Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'll go, but I'm doing it in protest. And I'm like, arms crossed, walking across the campus, like, all right, I'm trudging across campus. And so I want you to ask yourself, are there times when you have that little inkling to go do something, to change something, to shift something about yourself, to follow a new interest? And the demand is to do something uncomfortable or something that you don't know how it's going to work out. Put yourself in that position and ask yourself, were you willing to walk, metaphorically speaking, walk across the campus in the snow and trudge through the snow in the dark and the cold? Like, are you willing to take that journey? Well, I was. And 20 minutes later, I get to Cox Cottage. And yes, true to form, I stand in front of the door with my arms crossed. And I said, I'm not ringing the buzzer. There's a sign right there. Door locked at 11, ring buzzer. It's like, I'm not ringing the buzzer. I'm not waking up a nurse when I don't feel sick. This makes no sense. And a lot of times, spoiler alert, intuition doesn't make sense to human reasoning. It doesn't make sense to go join that class or sign up for that, whatever. Like, this makes no sense at all. It doesn't go with my budget, doesn't go with my time schedule, doesn't go with my friends, it doesn't go with anything. Listen to the intuition and follow it. So I get to the door and I'm standing there like looking up going, I'm not going to ring the buzzer. And I hear, try the doorknob. So I try the doorknob and it's unlocked. And I open the door slowly. It's dark. It's kind of quiet. And then I hear a sound and I like follow the sound. Eventually I realize, oh, it's somebody crying. And I go back through the hallways, kind of dark hallways, and there's a light. I can see there's a light on at the back of the building. And I'm following the crying through the hallway back to this place. And it happens to be, the light is on in the kitchen. This gets me every time I tell this story. And I get to the kitchen and there's the nurse on the floor of the kitchen, unable to get up, in pain. And she looks up at me with tears in her eyes and she says, how did you know to come? I've been praying that somebody would come and help me. So I was able to, mic drop. I was able to help her, get her to a bed. We prayed. She actually had a really wonderful healing. was there until the morning nurse came and was able to go on. Like, I'm like tearing up. It's like these divine moments, these moments when we allow ourselves to be of service to the bigger idea. And that bigger idea is who you are. When you allow yourself to fill the space that is you, magic happens, miracles happen. And the miracles are the normal thing of life. Miracles have been held out as these like odd experiences that happen every now and then when all the stars are aligned. It's like miracles are the norm when we get out of the way. When we let that false ego, that story of us, the story we've always told ourselves is us, when we let that drop and we step into who we truly are. So I invite you to tune in enough to your true self so that you can hear that voice. You can hear that still small voice that's awake in all of us. We're all given this gift. All of us, every single one of us. It's part of our divine design. It's part of your spiritual DNA. That spiritual DNA that is who you are trumps every other kind of DNA you can possibly imagine. So when the medical is telling you, oh, it's in your genes, well, just know you have a spiritual DNA that is much more powerful, based in divine law, not based in material law, which is the illusion. Look at quantum physics. There is no matter. There is no matter. This stuff that looks so solid, it's actually solid spirit. We are all divine ideas. We are not material. We are not physical. We are not born into matter and die out of matter. You know as well as I do that your identity existed long before you showed up as a little human on the planet in this little earth school. And what is this little earth school for? To drop the ego, to learn how to recognize that this is not us. We're told it is. We're given a lot of evidence in the 5 physical senses that it is, but there's a divine law that's operating that goes way beyond what the physical senses are telling you. And you know it in your heart. And how do I know that you know it? Because when you hear the truth, it resonates. And it makes you feel there's truth in that. It makes you feel settled and peaceful and loved. That's when you're hearing the truth. You know it in your heart. That is that still small voice. That is that place in you that is divine, that is calling to you to trust it. It's calling you like when I was told, go to Cox. Did I trust that there was something bigger going on than my agenda? Did I trust that there's a law operating here? Look at what happened. She was praying that someone would come and help her. I had no idea she was praying. God knew. Divine love knew. There's a phrase, there's a book I've studied all my life, this book, Science and Health, with Key to the Scriptures by this woman, Mary Baker Eddy. And there's a line in there that says, divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. So those human needs that we all have, that we tend to go outside of ourselves to get solutions for, the answer is in divine love. Divine love has always met the human need. So she's reaching out to divine love. I'm tuning into divine love and being obedient. I could have ignored it and gone to my dorm room, gone to sleep. I didn't ignore it. I was being governed by divine love, not human love for myself, divine love. And what was divine love doing? Meeting the human need clear on the other side of campus that I had no idea about. And what did it do for me? It gave me an experience that was absolutely, without question, one of the biggest examples of this is what it looks like to follow your intuition. It's not always about you. It can be about the bigger idea. I mean, it's always ultimately about the bigger idea, but sometimes it comes in a package that looks like it's about you. And then we need to get over ourselves. So we're given opportunities over and over and over again to get past that personal sense of self, to get past that limited sense of self, and to see the vision of who God sees, and to be willing to drop that personal view of us that we've always held on to as the shield around us and curated to make sure everybody sees what we want them to see, because we're too afraid for them to see what's really going on inside, because we don't know what that is. When we know what that is, we're not afraid to drop the walls. We're not afraid to stand naked in front of the universe and say, yeah, look at me. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. And it's not ego. It's the most humble thing we can do. And I'm talking a lot. Just don't get me started. You gave me the mic and I just kept going. You got to interrupt me more.
Listen, you have you've opened up so many doors here. I felt the collective sigh, the releasing of the backpack and the rocks and the burdens. And what is special, especially special about you, is that as a young girl at 3 years old, you already had your relationship with God. You already were open and allowing and ready to recognize and to know that you are God expressed in, as, and through you. So your journey has been a steady, continuous, growing, evolving spirituality, spiritual, divine law way of living. I kind of feel like that too, but I can't say that I was 3 years old, but I remember praying myself to sleep at night. Like literally, I would say my prayers when I got in bed, and when I woke up the next morning, I prayed myself to sleep. And I know, just like you, and like we all do, that God has always and does always guide and direct our lives and our steps. Now, you were receptive the whole time. I knew and I listened, but I was more susceptible to the outside influences, meaning that because not everybody looked for God, heard God, wanted God to be in my life, that you kind of, those are the things that you tuck down inside. And so you hear, but like you went kicking and screaming. Some of us don't follow the call and don't do the thing that we have been told to do.
And that's where the pain shows up. It's like, and I, trust me, I haven't always been so like, okay, I'll do it. Like, yes, that is always the promise I've made to me and to God. It's like, yes, I will always be obedient, but trust me, there are times when I was in that codependent relationship, in my 20s, which I think a lot of people probably experience, but I thought I knew what was best for me. And I knew, like deep down inside, you hear people say this all the time. Like when they get divorced, they say, I knew I shouldn't have married him. I knew it was wrong the minute we got married. I knew I should. And they stay in it for 18 years. It's like, we know deep down inside. And I had actually done, I had broken up with this one guy, and I'd made this list of all the qualities, because this was, I don't know, some spiritual practitioner told me this was the way to do it. Make a list of all the qualities you want to see in a partner or in a companion, and then start expressing those, because what you're expressing, you're attracting. So it's kind of like the law of attraction, but the real version of it, which is what you focus on expands, what you express is going to be seen more in your life, either by you or by others. So I have this whole list of qualities, spiritual qualities that I want, and I start expressing them. Like the next day, a guy shows up and he's got everything. Well, the problem is he was a real controller and he wanted to control me. And I saw signs of it, but I kind of ignored that because he had all these qualities. Well, there were several qualities, now that I look back on it, there were several qualities I left off the list. So when you make that list, be really clear about what's important. So I went on for, I don't know, a year and a half, denying that voice inside that said there's something off here. Meanwhile, I'm giving away parts of myself to his view of me and starting to believe his view of me. So as I come across to you now, I probably come across as somebody who's fairly confident and knows myself pretty well and self-possessed. By the end of that year and a half, it was like I couldn't make a decision by myself. I had to ask him, like, what did he think? So not me. It was like I'd been hypnotized to be this thing that he created. And long story short, it came down to, and there was a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of emotional abuse. At one point, when I refused to, like I was being very stubborn, I refused to leave. It was kind of fatal attraction. Refused to leave his apartment building. He like dragged me down the stairs. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. So I went clear across the country to my girlfriends to like, I need to be around girlfriends who know me. Went to see a spiritual practitioner, had been praying about it the whole time, but I was unwilling to let it go. I was addicted, to be honest. I was really addicted to this codependent relationship. And when I got to the spiritual practitioner's office, we, told him my story, all the stories. Like, be alert. When you start telling stories, be alert to what's really going on. Because a lot of times it's the dog and pony show that's the distraction from the truth. So I told my stories and it got to be 5:00 and he said, okay, 5:00, I'm going to go. Just shut off the light and lock the door behind you. And, and I thought, mon Dieu, in my hour of need, you're going to leave me. It's like, are you kidding me? You're leaving me when I'm on the floor sobbing and you're going to walk out the door? What the heck? I'm paying you to like help me. Best thing he could have done. Absolute best thing he could have done. Why? Because it got me out of myself. I was so sorry for myself with all the stuff that had happened. And I was victim. This is happening to me. There wasn't any part of me that was saying this is happening for me. Well, he knew better. He knew that this was happening for me and that there was a gift in this experience for me of knowing the higher version of me and not falling for the BS.
And an opportunity to make a choice.
Yes.
And
an opportunity to make a choice. Like, this choice matters. So in that moment, the thought that came to me was I had borrowed a friend's car to get there because this was in LA. I'd gone from Santa Monica to the Valley, driven across the hill in the Valley with her car. I promised I would get the car back in time to go to Wednesday night service, church testimony meeting. So I'm on the floor and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to be responsible and I'm going to get the car back in time. It was the first unselfed thought I think I'd had all day, where, oh, I get to be true to that commitment I'd made, like be true to myself, be true to my word, be true to the word that I'd given somebody else, and do something that it got me up off the floor. Well, in that moment, it was like waking up from a dream. I can't even tell you, like, that whole year and a half experience, when you wake up from a dream and like all the details just fade and you're sort of grasping for details, like you can't quite, like, I think there was something about a dragon in there, but it was like the whole relationship, all the details just faded. Like, now, if you asked me what actually happened, like there's really not a lot I can remember other than having some great windsurfing times and times with friends, but all the abuse, all of that, it's just gone. It was literally like waking up from a dream, and I was free. I was free from the addiction of needing his approval, needing his permission, and it was completely that place in life where a lot of us find ourselves, where we're constantly looking for confirmation from the outside to see if this is right for us. And that's giving away our power. It's giving away the power that God has put in us, which is to listen to the still small voice. And that's where the power sits, because that's of God. That's of the divine. And there's divine all power in that. And when we tap into that and align with that, our whole life changes. So from that moment, well, I'll give you just the end of that little story. Went to church that night, testimony meeting. You hear a little bit of readings from Bible, Science and Health, and then people share like experiences of healing, which is a wonderful, or comments or ideas or whatever. And I'm sitting between my two girlfriends because I'm the one that's in need. So I'm, being supported by them. And this guy walks in late. Wow, he's really cute. And I'm like, are you kidding me, Lisa? Are you freaking kidding me? You just got up off the floor of a practitioner's office because you were in a codependent relationship with a guy who destroyed your life. And now you're looking at another guy? What? And there was this talk about intuition, this insistence that I meet this guy. It's like, no way in heck. It's like, I am swearing off relationships, that I'm going dark for a while. You got to meet this guy. It's like, no, I'm not going to meet this guy. And by the end of the service, I finally was like, oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay, God, I will meet the guy, but I'm not like, so I see him at the top of the aisle and I walk up and I'm just about to tap his shoulder. And an intern that worked for me in Boston, grabbed me and turned me around. And I just missed his shoulder. And I thought, I tried, God. And he walked out and I thought, okay, he's gone. Well, I tried. I was obedient. I tried. I'm off the hook. So we're chatting, blah, 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 blah. We get out in the parking lot like 10 minutes later, and my friend Joy is there. And I see him walk out, and I was like, oh, I thought he left because I don't really know this church very well. I was visiting, and there was like, he had gone into the Sunday school and he was coming out. And so by now he's like across the parking lot. I said, Joy, what's his name again? His name's Jay. So I yell across the parking lot because that's just who I am. It's like, I'm going to be obedient. If it makes me look foolish, I don't care. If it makes me look like, like I'm chasing after a guy, I don't care. I'm going to be obedient to the intuition. Like, I'm being obedient. I'm just going to do it. I yell across the parking lot, Jay. And he looks at me like he thinks he knows me, but he's not sure. And I'm like, just walking over and going, hi, I'm Lisa. I just got a really clear sense I was supposed to meet you. What do you do? And he starts talking about working on this documentary for teachers and TV stuff. And I was just in a transition in my broadcasting career, going from radio to TV. And I thought, oh, this was a work thing. So I go into like work mode, like, do you want to have coffee? And should we sit down and exchange? So we arranged to have coffee the next day, and we go Dutch, which I was kind of annoyed at, but we go Dutch. And there's something more going on there. I'm just getting chills talking about this. There's something more going on there. Like, there's something here. Like, but I was like, nope, this is business. I'm listening. This is business. There was something else there. Well, by the end of that night, and I'm telling you honestly here, I knew I was going to marry him. I knew. It's like, this is my husband. I knew. And I'm getting chills. We've been married 33 years.
From off the floor to 33 years of marriage.
Yes.
All in one night.
Yeah. And I didn't know. So I have to actually just like come clean on this a little bit. So because I knew I was in really bad habits from that codependent relationship, I had not broken the habits. Like, that healing it released me, but I was humanly like still in these bad habits of dependency. I did not want to bring that level of thought into this relationship. So I made a promise to myself, because I was living in Boston working and he was living in LA. And we left, actually, we both had a meeting the next day and went off our separate ways. And we started this long distance snail mail letters, people. Like, this is way back in the day when we didn't have email and internet and all this stuff. We actually wrote letters on paper with pen and put it in an envelope and put a stamp on it and stuck it in the mailbox. I know nobody ever does that anymore. Anyway, snail mail letters back and forth across the country. But I made a promise to myself. I said, if I ever feel like I need him or need something from him, I cannot call, I cannot write. Well, writing, it's snail mail, so different. But it would be like now, like, don't call, don't text, don't DM, nothing. I had to go radio silent, and I had to either call a friend, girlfriend, or reach out to God. And mostly for me, it was reaching out to God, just because I knew that's the shortest answer. Like, that's the shortest way to the solution, is go to God, because I'd been well practiced at that. So I made a promise to myself, and it took me several months to get to a place where I started to really get to know my worth, that my worth and the love that I felt was not sourced in people, was not sourced in Jay, was not sourced in my friends, was not sourced outside of me, even though it's expressed that way and it comes through other people as other people to me. The source is always God. And that's the thing that I learned in spades during that time. Like I knew it, but I really like got it solid that anytime I was feeling less than, I wasn't going to go lean on other people's opinion of me or view of me. I was going to go right to God. And so there were many times when I felt really bereft of attention, love, support, whatever, and went into my closet and shut the door, metaphorically speaking, and did not call, did not write, and built up that spiritual muscle. I got spiritually fit. Spiritual fitness is really important. And there was do you want to hear another little story?
I love your stories because your stories are complete. They have the questions and they have the answers. And the answer is always God and following what you are being guided to do. So give us some more guidance stories. Give us some more knowing who I am, where I come from, why I am here, and what I am doing, and doing it all for God stories. So yes.
Okay, so
please.
this is like continuing the relationship thing. So there was a day during my time of promise where I'm not going to call and be needy. I just feel sad, lonely. I think it's like New England rain, kind of cool. It's like a perfect day to be cozy and with someone. Of course, he's 3,000 miles away, so that's not possible, but I like don't even pick up the phone call. So I go to the beach because I love the ocean and that's kind of my place of communion. Go to the beach, and it's the beach that I grew up on, Sandy Beach, Cohasset, Mass. And it's about a quarter of a mile long. There are like rocks on either end and then ocean and parking lot behind. It's like this nice sandy beach, but it's a finite distance. So I go walking on the beach and I'm like crying. It's like, I'm just, God, I just, I just am lonely. I just want to feel loved and blah, blah, blah. And just reaching out, reaching out with all my heart and try like, this sucks. And I trusted, because I started to get a better sense of, okay, God, if you're the source, then like, let it be tangible. Like I want to feel loved right here, right now. And so this is the little clue that I have for all of us, because I have to remind myself of this all the time. Ask. Like ask for what you need. Remember that thing I said before, divine love always has met and always will meet every human need. You have human needs, ask, because divine love will meet the need. So I really was like reaching out and asking. It's like, I just want to feel loved. Well, no sooner had I really just like turned that over to God, like kind of demanding it in a way. It's like, okay, God, you say you're love, like show up for me. I want to feel it. This dog comes and like walks next to me and puts his head under my, like he's a really tall dog. He puts his head under my hand and walks next to me. So I'm like crying and petting this dog. It's like, and I'm feeling comforted. Like it couldn't have been a person because I would have been embarrassed. Like when I cry, you saw a little hint of it when I told that story. Like when I cry, my eyes are puffy, my nose is red. It's like I'm a mess, like snot fest. I think this was a version of Snotfest. This was like not pretty. So it couldn't have been a person showing up and being generous. The dog was perfect. I petted his head. I felt, I'm starting to breathe again. Then I feel, and I'm petting the little dog, and then I notice there's a seagull, and I get distracted. I love seagulls because I'd read Jonathan Livingston's Seagull as a kid, and looked at the seagull and it's squawking and I'm like watching him fly. And then I turn back and the dog is gone. The dog is gone. I look up and down the beach. There's no dog. There's no dog. Like the dog is gone.
You got what you asked for. You got that
like
tangible
the angel,
love.
it came in a very tangible way, but then it was gone. It was like, oh wow. Like that was intense. That was cool. But that was okay. So this can be really tangible and still be a spiritual idea. And still be like, I can feel it. So that was one of those experiences. It's like, just ask. Ask what you really feel you need in your heart of hearts. And if you're at a point in your life where you're transitioning from not being really yourself to wanting to be yourself, ask, what does that look like? You know, there's a thing on my website. Go to lisataylorcs.com. There's a workshop I did. It's free. It's called Paths of Practice. You know, I'm all about daily practice. So there's got a worksheet. It's like a whole workshop on how to design your daily practice. What does your spiritual practice look like? And the premise of it is, it's the up and out method, which is essentially what I've done my whole life, but I really just recently named it that. The up and out method. It's look up to God, look in to who you truly are and your still small voice, and then look out on the world and be the expression of who that is. Look up, look in, look out. And your daily practice supports that. Your daily practice also is in the form of that. So who is God? I mean, I grew up with a definition of God that is really powerful. It's not too long, so I'd love to share it.
Okay.
God, the great I am. We all know that from it's all biblically based. God, the great I am, the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-acting, all-wise, all-loving, and eternal. And then it goes into like these 7 synonyms: principle, mind, soul, spirit, life, truth, love, all substance, intelligence. So if you look at that definition, and that's from this book I've studied all my life, Science and Health. If you look at that definition and you say, okay, if I am the reflection of that, then who am I? God, the great I am. So who am I? I am that I am. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am the reflection. I'm made in the image and likeness of the great divine all. God, the great I am, the all-knowing. So what would you have me know, God? The all-seeing. What would you have me see? The all-acting. What would you have me do? Who would you have me be? So there's this thing in Course in Miracles. I don't know if you guys know Course in Miracles. Marianne Williamson talks a lot about Course in Miracles and has a lot of trainings around that. Course in Miracles, I was introduced to this years ago by a friend who said there's a series of questions. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And I loved that. I thought, oh, because I'm all about, okay, God, I'm here, use me. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? And then when I started looking at the like, what do I really do in my day? What is my meditation early in the morning in my prayer? It's God, use me, but it's who would you have me be, God? It's not about the doing. A lot of people get it backwards. A lot of people do so they can have, and then they can be happy. Well, it's the absolute opposite. That's upside down. It's who am I being, which leads to what am I doing, which leads to having, or in a more sort of spiritually aligned way of saying that, being in alignment with who I truly am, which is full and abundant. And so you have everything, but you actually are everything. So who would you have me be? What would you have me know? Then, and what would you have me see? Then what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? But start with look up. Start with who would you have me be? Who am I being while I'm doing the to-do list? So I have to do the dishes, I have to do the laundry, I have to go do my job, I have to do, okay, I got to do all this stuff, but who am I being? You can have 10 people doing the laundry and they're all being different people. Who am I doing this? Who am I being doing this? Very different. So I would invite you to just go take advantage of that workshop. It's really cool because there's like a worksheet grid that has look up, look in, look out across the top, I think. And then down the side is, who would you have me be? What would you have me know? What would you have me see? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say, and to whom? but do all of those in terms of look up, like who would you have me be in terms of God? Look in, who would you have me be? Like, who am I on the inside? Who am I as a reflection of God? Who am I? Who do I see myself as? Because that sometimes can be different. That's the gap, right? Who does God see you as, and who do you see you as? That's the gap. And in that gap is where the struggle sits. That's where the pain sits. That's where the resistance sits, is our unwillingness to let go of our sense of ourselves and align our sense with God's sense of us. Anyway,
About
I went on again.
complete. Listen, talking about whole and complete, you have given the whole, not story, the whole scenario, the how, the what, the when, where to do it, which is everywhere and all the time. And you've also guided our audience to a free gift in addition to what you already had in mind about your daily metaphysical show. So tell us about that.
The thing, this is to kind of go on, sort of to follow up on the idea of a daily practice. I cannot express strongly enough how much having a daily practice has changed my life. 7th grade, my mom offered me the idea, you might want to just sit down and like read some Bible lesson in the morning. So like for 5 minutes one day in 7th grade, I sat on the edge of my bed and I read some Bible lesson before I left. That day of school was so different from every other day I'd ever experienced. Like everything, you remember junior high, when nothing goes right and you feel really awkward, like you haven't even like moved, you can't manage your body. Everything went right. I ran into the right people. I said all the right things. It was like I was in flow. And I thought, what the heck? If taking 5 minutes in the morning to align my thinking with who God sees me as gets me this, I'm doing this the rest of my life. And that's when my daily practice began. And it's always, it's morphed over the years and included other things. But I would invite you to really look at what is your spiritual daily practice? What is that for you? And this is where I'm probably different than a lot of people who have grown up in church. I honestly feel like there should be as many religions as there are people in the world, because the religion, the structure around which your divine path sits, is between you and God. It is nobody's business what your spiritual path looks like. That's between you and the divine, between you and the creator. And no one else has an opinion about it. And there are no shoulds around it.
That's
so
because there are no, we mistake spirituality for religion.
Yeah.
Spirituality is simply the relationship that you have with your creator.
That's right.
And when that is intact, you've got everything. You don't need anything else.
And so I would just offer, there are elements that I have found in my practice that have been really, really helpful. One is connecting to nature, connecting to the natural expression of God's creation, connecting to nature. And if you live in a city, that's fine. You have a plant on the shelf, you have a picture of a mountain, like connect with the idea of the creation that is glorious. There's glory everywhere. So connecting with glory. I find in nature, be stillness and silence. I beg of you, stillness and silence. The world is loud and God whispers. And if you're not still enough and quiet enough and you're tuning into the world and all the loud, you're not going to hear the still small voice, right? So take time, sit, and just, if you're starting out, set your little iPhone or your whatever phone you have, set a timer for 7 minutes. Start with 7 minutes, just 7 minutes, and just sit in silence. And the first thing that happens is you got the to-do list running. You got the self-negative talk. Just sit. Stop talking. Stop talking. Stop it. Just sit. Just like sit. Just pause. It's a really good practice. So time in nature, time in silence and peace and meditation, time in prayer, and taking in being inspired by reading, by music, by whatever inspires you, being inspired, being present in the moment. What brings you into the present moment? Because God is ever present. What does that mean? The only place God exists is in the now. Ever
And now.
present. Ever present. Yes, ever present, always present, but ever in the present moment. So if we're not in the present moment, we're missing it. So practice being present. And what is that? What activity leads you to that? That's like, who are you being? Are you being present? Okay, what activity leads you to that? And I won't go into that because that's all in that workshop. So daily practice. So the other gift I'm offering you, which is awesome, is to join me for a week free on, I do a daily show called Morning Metaphys. And if it's not morning for you, I have people all over the world. So if it's not morning for you, that's okay. You get a recording every day. You can play it in the morning, but I do recommend that you start your day with tuning into your true self and aligning with your true self so that you're solid in that alignment. And then when all the arguments come up against you, you have that to stand on. It's like you're starting with that firm foundation, and then you have a place to stand on firmly when the stuff is trying to knock you down and you don't get knocked over. It's like, building the house on the rock. So you want to build your house on the rock every morning. So Morning Metaphys is a daily spiritual metaphysical mindset show that I do every day. And you can tell I don't mind talking, but I do go on. So every day I do my preparations, a couple of hours of whatever, a lot of times it's longer than that. And I show up at 7:30 Pacific time every morning, every weekday. And I go for 25 minutes, half an hour, and just let God pour through me. On Fridays, we do Roundtable. So I do my thing, and then we open it up for Roundtable and discussion, which is really cool. But you get a free week trial of that, and just check it out and see, and it might give you just an idea of, is there an element of this that works for your practice? Like, is there something around this that's aligned for you? And what is that version for you? It may not be me, it may be somebody else or whatever, but check out, what does it look like to have a consistent daily practice where you feel inspired, you feel closer to that true being of you, you feel like encouraged to stand strongly in who you are, not in who the world is expecting you to be, that you feel kind of buoyed up, that you feel that you can kind of bounce, you can be the ball bouncing on top of the water and not the one that's being dragged down. Ever notice how it takes a whole lot more effort to push the ball under the water, which is what the world is like, hold yourself down. And when we let go, the ball just floats. Like, that's us with the ego holding us down, or the world holding us down to be less than. And when we let go of that false ego, boing, we pop up and we get to be buoyant. And you don't all have to be out there like I am. I'm like, that's my little individual expression. Some people are much quieter. And I actually do have quiet moments. Believe it or not, there are a few times here and there.
Lisa, you have just summarized everything that Dream Life Unfolded is about. You have filled our minds, our bodies, our souls with abundance beyond. And I'm so thankful to you. There's nothing I can ask you. There's nothing I need to add to this. Just know that you have said everything that fills my spirit, that is in alignment with who I am and what my purpose for having this show is all about. And I'm certain you have touched every spirit that is here in this space with us now, because it's all here now. So with that, I genuinely thank you for gracing us with your presence and with sharing everything that you shared. And again, there's nothing else to add.
Well,
So
I just want to say thank you. I really, truly, you created the space for this to happen. And your heart is what created this. Without you holding the space, I wouldn't have shown up the way I did. So this is your gift to the world. And I really, truly am so grateful that you asked me to be a part of it, because this is bigger than both of us. And I really feel that this is an anointed program. And I feel really honored and blessed to be a part of it. So thank you. Really, thank you. And I really do invite anyone who would like any of the free gifts that I'm offering, just go to lisataylorcs.com, just the way it sounds, and take advantage of that. And Yaminah, thank you. I really, truly appreciate your inviting me to be a part of this.
the pleasure is mine. The joy is mine. The thanks is all mine. Thank you, Lisa. So, my dream life unfolded, people. Here you have been blessed. You have been guided to, you were called here for this purpose, for this space here and now, to get everything that came through Lisa Taylor here for all of us today. So I hate to say goodbye because it has been so good, and you can have the mic like for hours, but we do have to recognize that you have things going on that you've got to go finish making happen, as do all of us. Lisa, thank you so much. You are loved and appreciated. So everyone, have a great day, night, morning, whatever it is. And we are so happy that you were here for this experience. Goodbye, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye, everyone.